You are listening to Proof of Love with Tatiana Morose, Dr. Stephanie Murphy, and Lauren Kasovitz. This show may contain adult content, language, and humor and is intended for mature audiences. If that's not you, please stop listening. Nothing you hear on Proof of Love is intended as financial advice, legal advice, therapy, or really anything other than entertainment. Please take everything that you hear with a grain of salt. Oh, and if you're hearing us on an affiliate network, the ideas and views expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the network that you're listening on, or of any of the sponsors or affiliate products that you may hear about on the show. Now that that's squared away, let's start the show. Show me your heart. I know that it's beating. Tell me that you love me too. So I know your heart is true. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. Thank you to our sponsor, blocktap.io. Please go to their website and check out their universal cryptocurrency API to get reliable cryptocurrency data. blocktap.io. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Proof of Love. We're going to be talking about the love languages today. So, jaki język ty rozmawiasz? That was Polish, but Polish isn't a love language. It's just a language I use to
suddenly I feel a lot of love.
Yes, there you go. I'm using it to signal to my other Polish people that I love them. But anyway, we're going to talk about the love languages today, and I'm really excited because I read the book. It's a popular book by Gary Chapman. I'm joined today by my beautiful co-host, Lauren Kasovitz. Hey, Lauren.
Hey, good morning. Hello, everybody.
And I'm also joined with Dr. Stephanie Murphy. Hey, Doc, how's it going?
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And I hope wherever you are, you're having a great time and feeling lots of love.
Very good. Cool. So I'm really excited about this show. I read this book a while ago. I think it could be very helpful, like a really quick and easy way to help couples communicate, because not everybody wants to have a serious, communication thing, right? They're like, it seems kind of lame.
Oh, but some people do. And that's part of what we're going to talk about today.
All right. Very good. So guys, if you're at home and you want to pause this episode and take your 5 love languages quiz before we get started, it's 5, the number 9. I'm sorry, 5, the number 9. The number 5, lovelanguages.com. And you can take it. They have them for singles. They have them for people that are coupled up and a few other options. So check out the test. It'll take you 5 minutes. It'll probably make this a little bit more fun, but we're going to go over what these 5 love languages are as soon as we say a special thank you to our sponsor. This episode of Proof of Love was brought to you by Vaultoro. Vaultoro is a gold hedging solution for the crypto community. One of the challenges of investing in cryptocurrencies is dealing with volatility, and keeping a diversified portfolio is the key to healthy returns. I keep about 10% of my crypto assets in gold using Vaultoro. Vaultoro allows me to open a gold wallet in seconds where I can easily trade with my cryptos and gold. What I like about using Vaultoro instead of Tether is that the gold in my Vaultoro wallet is insured, audited, vaulted in Switzerland, and unlike fiat money, gold has increased in value for the last 20 years. Visit Vaultoro.com and start today. That's vault, like gold vault, and oro, which is Spanish for gold. Vaultoro. Ole! I added in that ole part. And
that's so
I love
good.
it. I think it's really funny.
And one other thing about Vaultoro is that there's not many companies that have been around in the crypto space for longer than a few years. Like that's kind of a rare thing. But Vaultoro, if I'm not mistaken, has been operating since quite a while ago, 2015 or something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, they've been out for quite a few years now. And Josh is like a really trustworthy guy. People know him. They've never had any kind of weird, sketchy stuff happen over there. And there's a lot of new products on the market, but they don't have the same, just longevity in the community. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. So yeah, people can listen to Josh from Vaultoro. We did a cool episode with Bob Murphy on the Tatiana Show. So if you go to the tatianashow.com, and we talk about hedging and then using gold versus, a stable coin. I think that was pretty neat. My friend asked me to explain it to him afterward, and I felt like I could actually explain the need for a stable coin, whereas before I couldn't. I'm not that great at it, so don't put me on the spot, but yeah, it was pretty neat. Anywho, who cares about hedging and gold and stuff like that? I'm worried about golden heart. And how do you make a golden heart? You got to speak the right language. You got to whisper it into the keyhole. So Lauren, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about the five love languages and the history before we go into our own love languages?
Sure. So the five love languages is based off of a book by Dr. Gary Chapman. It's the full title is The Five Love Languages, How to Express Heartfelt Commitment to Your Mate. It came out in 1992 and it kind of exploded onto the scene. He did not expect to have this kind of response, neither did the publishers, but people really, really took to this book and this idea. And the idea around the book is that there are five specific ways to express and experience love, and these are love languages. Everybody has a different way that they express love or they want to receive love. And Dr. Chapman really believes that the way that you express love is often the way you'd like to receive love as well. So we came up with this quiz, and he based a lot of examples around his counseling practice and things that he had seen in his lifetime. Have people take this 30-question quiz. I believe it's still 30 questions. I took the specific one for couples, even when I was single. And you get your score of what your love languages are. So basically, if you're taking these 30 questions, you'll have a tally at the end, and it'll tell you what acts of service, or actually, let me tell you what the five love languages are.
Yeah.
They are receiving gifts, quality time, words of affirmation, acts of service, and physical touch. When you take this quiz, you'll find out which one of those or which five of those are the most important. I'm sure that there are a lot of people that are tied across the board, but most people, I'd say the great majority, according to Dr. Chapman, have one love language that really stands out. So when you do take this quiz, you'll tend to find that the one that you have the highest points on is the one that really resonates and means the most to you. Many other people, including myself, kind of, tie a little bit on that top three, and that's pretty common too, but they each mean a different thing. And I don't know if you guys would like me to go through what they mean.
Well, let me just jump in here first, real quick. Yeah, you, as you said, Lauren, when you take this quiz, which we'll link to in the show notes, of course, you get a ranking of which love languages are most important to you. And I like that it's a ranking instead of just, okay, take the top one or two and ignore all the rest.
Exactly.
All of these might play into your expression or receiving of love in some way, but it's like what is the most important one or two? And then how can you use that? And is that the same if you're in a partner relationship? Is that the same as your partner? Is that different? Could you maybe be overlooking some of the ways that your partner is expressing love to you because it's not the same way you would express love? I think that's what his intention was, is like helping couples communicate better by being able to see how people sometimes express love differently. And if their partner has a different way of expressing love, can they actually challenge themselves to hear it, even if it's not the way you would express love?
Exactly. And I think it really ties into a lot of what we've been talking about on the show on many of our different podcasts. At the end of the day, it's really all about communication and compromise. So you're learning what's important to you. You're also learning what's important to your partner. Can you make that compromise to make them feel safe in the relationship and vice versa? And I know that the author also believes that even though there are these five big love languages, that it's a pretty extensive list beyond that, that there are many, many, many things that people need in a relationship, not just five, but that everybody really has that one primary love language and one or two, because often people are tied on that ranking of 2 and 3, secondary love language.
One thing I also wanted to go back to that you said earlier, Lauren, that's important to point out. If you take the quiz, you'll notice that the questions, at least in the partner quiz, are focused on what's most meaningful to you when your partner does this or when your partner does this. And that's how they're generating this ranking. The questions are not, how do you express love? It's focused on how do you receive love and how do you prefer to receive love? But you're saying that Gary Chapman, one of the critical things about his theory is that people often express love in the same way that they want to receive love.
Yes.
So you don't need to focus the questions on how do you express love. He just focused the questions on how do you receive love.
Exactly. And I find that really interesting and different, but I think it's really telling. And I think it's really, when you're in a relationship, I think it's an amazing thing to take this with your partner, because oftentimes the responses that you'll get and that you'll see, even with how you like to receive love, is really fascinating. I know for me, I was really shocked when I got my answers, which we'll discuss later. But I also wanted to point out that this book and this idea of the love languages has become so popular and resonated with so many people that there are quite a few different editions that he's come out with. He has the original for couples. He has for singles. He has for men specifically. He has for military. He has for teens and for children and for the workplace. So
he's just milking it.
He's just going there. But I do think it's really interesting to have these different editions because for me personally, I've only done the couples one, but I have a feeling they're very similar, but just shift for perspective and environment. And for me, probably the work environment would be very different than anything else. So I think it's pretty fascinating. It's something I've always wanted to look into even deeper.
Okay, so let's look deeper. Like, what exactly is meant by each of these 5 love languages, which, as you said, Lauren, are quality time, acts of service, physical touch, giving gifts, and words of affirmation, right?
Yes. I would love to read directly from his book, if that's okay. So
yeah.
we'll
ask questions and interrupt if something's not clear.
Yes. Okay, great. So we're going to start with words of affirmation. Actions don't always speak louder than words. If this is your love language, unsolicited compliments mean the world to you. Hearing the words, I love you, are very important. Hearing the reasons behind that love sends your spirits skyward. Insults can leave you shattered and are not easily forgotten. Kind, encouraging, and positive words are truly life-giving. So that's words of affirmation. Yes. Then we have physical touch, which I think a lot of people are confused on. So physical touch is interesting. It's not all about the bedroom. A person whose primary language is physical touch is not surprisingly very touchy. Hugs, pats on the back, holding hands, and thoughtful touches on the arm, shoulder, or face, they can all be ways to show excitement, concern, care, and love. Physical presence and accessibility are crucial, while neglect or abuse can be unforgivable and destructive. Physical touch fosters a sense of security and belonging in any relationship. So that's physical touch, which sex and intimacy is included in, but it's way broader than that.
I like how he has the shadow side of each one of these love languages too. Like, for words of affirmation, you like positive words, but hearing insults or negative words can be very damaging to the relationship. And same thing with touch. You enjoy touch, but if you're not receiving touch or if that's neglected, that can be very hurtful to you.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that too. Then we have quality time. In the vernacular of quality time, nothing says I love you like full, undivided attention. Being there for this type of person is critical, but really being there with the TV off, fork and knife down, and all chores and tasks on standby makes your significant other feel truly special and loved. Distractions, postponed dates, or the failure to listen can be especially hurtful. Quality time also means sharing quality conversation and quality activities. So
this is a big problem today with people like constantly looking at their phones when their partner's trying to talk to them. I know this has been an issue in some of my relationships before.
Yes, me too. And I know that, and I've done a bit of research on the quality time love language, and I find it very fascinating that he did expand the addition to the military, because I think this could be very, very pertinent to military wives or military husbands or people who are abroad who are needing that quality time. So the fourth one is acts of service. Can vacuuming the floors really be an expression of love? Absolutely. Anything you do to ease the burden of responsibilities weighing on an acts of service person will speak volumes. The words he or she most want to hear, let me do that for you. Laziness, broken commitments, and making more work for them tell speakers of this language their feelings don't matter. Finding ways to serve speaks volumes to the recipient of these acts.
Ooh.
Yes. I have so much to say about acts of service. I can't wait until we get there.
Yeah, I'll save my comments too. But yes. I was just thinking of times when I've experienced the flip side of this and how horrible it feels.
Me too. I'm with you on that. And that's what I'd love to talk about. And then lastly, we have receiving gifts. Don't mistake this love language for materialism. The receiver of gifts thrives on the love, thoughtfulness, and effort behind the gift. If you speak this language, the perfect gift or gesture shows that you are known, you are cared for, and you are prized above whatever was sacrificed to bring the gift to you. A missed birthday, anniversary, or a hasty, thoughtless gift would be disastrous. So would the absence of everyday gestures. Gifts are visual representations of love and are treasured greatly.
So this sounds a little bit similar to acts of service, but the difference between those two is that an act of service is a service. It's not like a physical thing. It's a gesture. And a gift is more of a physical or tangible thing.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes. So they gave a few examples, but for example, an act of service would be a husband who likes the acts of service. That's one of his strong love languages. He would maybe just do the laundry for his wife without her asking. He would just do it for her, and that's him showing her in this kind of subconscious way that he cares for her. But
it sounds great.
Which is wonderful.
Please do my laundry.
But let's say she doesn't really value acts of service that high on her love languages, and she values physical touch. Maybe he's not so strong with physical touch, and he's not overly affectionate or touchy, or they have lacking in a sex life, but he cares for her very much. For her, not having that physical touch is disastrous, and him showing her that he cares by doing the laundry may not really mean much to her. To her, it may just be, well, this is a household chore, and we do our chores, and this is how we function on a day-to-day. So without that connect of what each other needs and what things mean to each other, it can be really difficult. But once you bridge that gap and you understand how people are showing love towards you, parents, coworkers, friends, loved ones, even you towards other people, it can be really beautiful. It can really, strengthen any kind of relationship that you have.
Yeah, I'm really starting to see how this applies to not just romantic relationships, but a relationship with a parent or child. For example, maybe your parent gives you gifts for your birthday, but doesn't say, I love you very often, right? And you think your parent doesn't love you, but they're expressing love in just a different way than you're thinking, right? Or what about in your workplace, right? Maybe you have a coworker who's working on a team project with you, who's taking responsibility for doing little tasks to sort of take the burden off of you. They're expressing support. They're expressing, that they care and that they're part of the team and they're supporting you. But maybe you would prefer to hear words of affirmation, right? You're doing a great job, praise, right? Like from your boss or something like that. So I'm really starting to get a picture of how this applies in many different situations.
I actually have a point around that. When you mentioned that, you might have something different from your parents, I would think that people have to have pretty much the same love language as their parents. Do you think that is true, or do you think that changes?
That's a great point. I think that we mostly copy our parents in a lot of different ways, especially within relationships. Our parents become a template for how we express love and receive love and how we relate to other people. But if we see a lot of dysfunction in our parents' relationship, that can often show up as dysfunctional in our relationships too. So I would expect that people are pretty similar to their parents. But Lauren, what do you think?
I agree. I mean, words of affirmation is very, very high for me, which I discovered when I took the quiz and had no idea how really significant it was to me. And my parents have both been very vocal. I love you. I'm one of 4 kids. That's important to have your parent reminding you of how important you are in a large family. And that was something I just never even really realized until I took the quiz was, wow, I really grew up with parents who were very vocal about being proud of me. They loved me. It's okay if I made a mistake, which I made many. We forgive you. And that's in turn very much how I am with other people. I'm very vocal with how I feel about things. I like saying I love you to a friend I love when we're getting off the phone. To me, that feels good. And I hope that makes them feel good. So I do think it's a strong template. I have a friend who's had acts of service very, very high on her list. She's an only child, and she didn't grow up with very expressive parents, but her parents showed her that they loved her through acts of service by taking her to gymnastics class, by doing a lot of things and supporting her in ways educationally. And she's not very strong with her words and with words of affirmation with other people, but she in turn also does a lot of really beautiful acts of service for me and her friends. And it's really interesting to kind of see how that balances out with the way you're raised. So I think it's a huge template. Yes, for sure.
Do you gals want to go through each of our results now? Should we do that, or should we keep digging in? I feel like our audience wants to know what we're going to
Yeah. Tatiana, why don't you go first?
Well, okay, so I took the singles one. I don't recall if it was any different from the old one, but I just retook the quiz this morning and prepped for the show. So I got acts of service as 9, which I was kind of surprised by. Then I have physical touch and quality time are both in 7. Words of affirmation is only 4. And receiving gifts is the lowest, which I was surprised because I always like a small little thoughtful gift, but maybe that falls under one of the acts of service. I don't know. I was surprised that gifts didn't come up. I don't care about expensive gifts, but I just like thoughtful gifts that are for no reason. But that was the big loser of the 5. So acts of service is my main one, and then physical touch and quality time. Those are like the hot ones for me.
Interesting. Steph, do you want to go ahead?
Sure, yeah. So I had a tie for the top 2, and interestingly, I took this quiz with my partner and we got the exact same results, like same numbers and everything. So this was like a great sign.
Wow, that's mind-boggling. And I think that's really rare.
Yeah. And actually hearing your results, Tatiana, I noticed that our results were quite similar to each other, like the ranking of the stuff. There like maybe a little difference, but like the order was mostly the same. So I'm like wondering if this is helpful in a friendship too. Okay,
I bet you it is, because you and I, we seem to always get along, and I don't know. I don't think we have.
Yeah, like we see eye to eye, I think, and we learned how to express appreciation for each other in a good way. So yeah, here are my results. The top 2 were tied for acts of service and quality time, and then the next one was physical touch with 6. Oh, sorry. So acts of service and quality time were the top 2, tied at 9 points each. Physical touch was second place with 6 points. Words of affirmation was third with 4 points. And then the last one was receiving gifts with 2 points.
Interesting. Okay. I'll tell you guys mine, which was very different than both of yours. And my results were pretty dramatic, and I've taken this a few times over the years. My top at 12 points was words of affirmation.
Wow.
12. My second, which was also very, very high and not a surprise to me, was physical touch at 9. My third was quality time at 5. My fourth was acts of service at 2 and receiving gifts at 2. And I was not surprised by receiving gifts because I am notoriously just someone who doesn't care about getting gifts or giving gifts. But I am somebody who really, really craves physical touch and words of affirmation and quality time. I mean, and I think it's especially evident being so far away from friends and family, how things that are really getting me through are those words of affirmation. I miss you. I can't wait to see you again. This, that, the other. That is almost more important to me than somebody randomly, which I had happen and was really a beautiful thing, but had somebody just randomly fly out here when I first moved out here, which was a really thoughtful and kind thing to do. But I don't think it had the effect on me that she wanted. It would almost have been if she called me every day for 2 weeks just to be like, hey, I know you're busy, but I just wanted to say hi and I miss you. That would have been a more impactful statement for me, which I think is really interesting.
Okay, so Lauren likes Lauren likes words of affirmation. So Lauren, we just want to say that we love you and you're doing a great job with the podcast.
Thank you.
You're fabulous.
Thank you.
And Tatiana likes quality time. So we're going to be spending lots of quality time together recording the show.
But I think that quality time is such a big thing for all three of us, I believe, isn't it? Was it our number 3 for all of us, or number 2 and 3?
Yeah,
quality time was tied. Yeah, quality time was tied for my top 2.
Yeah, I think quality time is a big thing, and I wouldn't be surprised. I really don't know percentages, but I wouldn't be surprised if quality time is pretty high up there for most people, because just having, and I mean, Steph, you touched on it before. I mean, the fact that we don't really get that quality time as much as we used to in our society as a whole is to a detriment, because it's something that we really all crave, as we can see in our 3 results.
Absolutely. Now, I wonder, okay, I have so many things I want to talk about, but I'm curious, like, how this applies to self-love, because we talk about self-love a lot on this podcast. And so is there a way that we can use this in order to show ourselves love in a more impactful way? Or do we just do that automatically and we don't even need to pay attention to it?
Oh, I have an answer for that.
Yeah.
I mean, a really tiny answer for myself. But with words of affirmation being so high on my list, I listen to I am affirmations on YouTube in the morning. And I've heard a lot of people poo-poo them and say they're ridiculous and they're embarrassing. I don't write down affirmations, but just listening to those in the car and repeating them back, I am strong, I am connected, those really, really, really have a big effect on my day. A really big effect on my day. I could be having anxiety all morning, and a 10-minute I am affirmation video with just listening or repeating back can completely shift my day. No exaggeration. So, and same with physical touch, which is very high for me. Somebody just giving me a hug or just hand holding it can change my whole week. It's very, very significant for me personally.
Yeah, I'm thinking about how my results apply to my practice of self-love, and my top two are acts of service and quality time. And I'm just thinking, like, I'm often doing things like to set up for something to be easier for myself in the future. So for example, I'm putting something on auto pay, or I'm setting something up so that I'm scheduling like a massage for myself or something for next week. And then when it actually comes to be that time in the future, I'm like, yes, thank you, past Stephanie, for setting that up. That's great. So I think this is maybe like acts of service, and then quality time. Like, I need a lot of alone time, as we talked about on the personality type show. And yeah, this is like quality time with myself. And then physical touch, it's like sometimes I'm getting massages, or I'm doing self massage or yoga, or I'm doing this skin brushing. And yeah, I think these are all ways that I'm fulfilling my self-love in a way that's compatible with my love languages. Very cool.
Yeah, I think so too. And I do want to add this in. My partner, he's very private, so I don't talk a lot about him, just his personal things. But I will say that very, very high on his list was acts of service. And I'm not going to say it's been difficult for me, but I really make a conscious effort, now that I know that that's very important to him, to do small things to make his life easier or to make him feel good. And he notices. It's a big deal for him. But it doesn't come over the top natural to me. It's something I do work at. And I'm like, I would rather, and physical touch is also very important to him. I'd rather just run over and give him a hug, or be like, I love you. You're so handsome. You're so special. Da, 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 da.
Oh, because you're so big on words of affirmation. Yeah.
Yeah. So
have you ever talked about that? And have you ever, yeah.
Oh, we've talked about it a lot. And when I was looking for work earlier in the year, I made a big effort. Being, Sally Homemaker is not something that is natural to me at all. And I'm used to taking care of myself. I was single for a very long time. I lived on my own in my apartment for many, many, many years. It was a big adjustment for me to have to be like, oh man, on a day-to-day basis, there's somebody else. Okay. It's important to him that I show him I care in these small ways. So, I had a whole day, I would do laundry. I knew that would be one thing he didn't have to worry about. I would make us dinner. And it sounds very like, homemaker, but it was those small things that were very easy for me. When he came home from work, he just smiled like, oh my God, babe, thank you for this. Thank you. Wow. Like, it was a big, big deal for him.
And then he's giving you affirmation, which is your language.
Yes. He's giving me affirmation and hugs and the touch, and then, it all kind of, that's a really interesting point you say, because it does all kind of run through each other, because then we would end up having more quality time together. I was making dinner before he got home. We would have that quality time to spend eating dinner together. I think it really does affect pretty much everything in your life, and your partner's life, or your friends or colleagues. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking back to the conversation we had about our parents and what did we see from our parents. And I could very easily I noticed, like, as I was taking this test, I could very easily think of examples of my parents expressing love to each other through each of these languages and also expressing love to me. And so I just want to like appreciate that. Like, hey, thanks parents. You did a pretty good job of showing love to each other and to me. But I think as a consequence, I have pretty high standards for what I expect from a partner. And, you know, I expect love to be expressed to me in all of these different ways, especially the ones that are most important to me. And I'm also willing to give it. So, you know, this is a great thing to be aware of in our own lives and in our relationships, and especially where it comes from too.
I've never actually thought about this, but now that I'm thinking about it, and it's really funny, my dad has always been very vocal to the point of like embarrassment when you're a kid with my mom. Very like, oh, you're so beautiful. Look at my beautiful wife. Does everyone see my beautiful wife? And like they're almost 70 and they're still holding hands all the time when they're out. And I'm just realizing that now, that those two things are so very important to me. And those are two ways that my parents always showed a lot of love towards each other. Just realizing that. That's really
It's also important to talk about those with your partner. And also it's very important to talk about those if you're in a relationship with someone, if you saw the flip side of some of these things from your parents. If your parents were neglectful of you or of each other, or if they, you know, maybe separated, or if your parents were verbally insulting each other, or they were not doing the opposite of words of affirmation, and you saw that a lot, you might be really sensitive to that. And it's important for your partner to know about that.
Yeah. So I think it's also interesting. Do you guys feel that this can tie in with different things that we've discussed as well, like the Myers-Briggs? Do you think it has any correlation?
Yes, I do think it has a correlation to Myers-Briggs, especially introversion and extroversion, and maybe even some of the other aspects of personality. Here's what I'm thinking for introversion and extroversion. Some people have these very loquacious personality types where they're very good at expressing in words how they feel. Other people, not so much, you know, and maybe that's part of introversion and extroversion, or maybe that's some of the cognitive functions like extroverted thinking. People are extroverted thinking in their stack are very good at expressing verbally how they feel and what they think and what the plan is and what they think they should do. But some people don't have that. So they might show their affection through other ways like physical touch. Some people might not like to be touched as much, especially if they're very introverted, or if they maybe aren't neurotypical, right? If they're on the autism spectrum or something else, they might not like to be touched as much as someone who's very extroverted. Also with giving gifts and making gestures. Sometimes extroverts are stronger at that. And some people like to do acts of service and kind of be behind the scenes, and they don't really need credit for it or praise, but they're doing that because it makes them happy and it makes sense to them. So yeah, I do think there's a tie-in with personality.
So I would like to ask, what in the results that we've all had, is there anything that we want to share with what's the most important to us personally, or is that a little too personal? Like for your quality time or acts of service, Steph and Tatiana, are there specific things that really kind of like hit your buttons in a positive way within those categories?
Tatiana, did you have a comment before this question too? Because I saw you unmute before.
Yeah, no, I mean, what I was going to say is, if you're in a relationship and you are seeing that your love languages are crossing, but your other partner is not willing to, read a love language book with you, can you change the dynamic in your relationship?
Ooh, that's, I think that's really interesting. I have a very close friend who took the love life. She's very much like us. She's constantly wanting to learn and better herself. And her significant other at the time, which they are not together anymore, had zero interest in taking the quiz, hearing her results, finding out how to make things better. So I don't know. I think
that's not a good sign.
It's not a good sign.
So I read in the book that you kind of have to try and implement it for a few weeks, not for, a couple tries and then give up, but you have to kind of give it to that person consistently and commit, okay, I'm going to make this change and I'm going to try this out for a month or 2 months or 3 months, preferably the longer the better, because then it sort of heals some of the rift between people. I guess I just wanted people to have that take home. I think that in your case, that guy sounds like he didn't care at all about your friend. She didn't need to take the love language for that. But with somebody else, I think that there is a little bit of a middle ground, especially I think sometimes people, especially in the crypto field or whatever, they're not the most vocal about their feelings. So maybe changing things up by sneak attacking them and changing your love language up might be effective.
You mean showing kind of showing them ways that they could reciprocate without actually telling them what's happening?
No, this is what I'm saying. Say you take the love languages quiz and your husband won't take it with you. But you look back at it and you say, well, now that I know what my results are, I think I could probably guess what their results are. And oh, wow, they have words of affirmation. And now that I think about it, that would be something that they would like to hear more. So why don't I try this out a little bit before I start demanding from, because I think a lot of times it's almost like a Mexican standoff, right? Like, I'm not going to change, they have to change. Well, if you take that first step and you do that change, even if that person isn't participating in your experiment, I do think that you can have potentially positive results, but you have to be consistent. That's what the book also suggested.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Actually, I do think it makes sense. And I think the more you do something when you're really kind of also on the other side of like willing to compromise and make somebody feel good, it starts to feel good. At least it did for me. It wasn't easy at first, but it started to feel really nice to be going a little bit overboard with acts of service because I started seeing how much it affected him. So that felt really good for me. And I did it for a while and I still do it. I mean, I don't make dinner and do the laundry every day anymore, but I do a lot of things that I think will make his day easier or feel better. And I noticed as I'm doing that, it really was like kind of a spotlight on how much he does that for me. I started noticing how much he does that regularly for me, which I may not have really even taken into consideration before. So I think that point is true.
Yeah. I have a personal experience I'm willing to share. I have an ex-partner who at the beginning of our relationship was really strong on my top 2 love languages, which are acts of service and quality time. And then towards the end of our relationship, as it went on, those really kind of dropped off the map. Like he would say that he was going to do something for me and then not follow through on it, which is a shadow side of the acts of service one. And then quality time was just really not happening. And then I noticed that he was starting to get really interested in someone else and was giving quality time to her. And I became very jealous. And this was ultimately really bad. And then I wonder, about his love languages, like, were they different? Was he sort of thinking that he was expressing love to me in the way that I needed it? And then he just didn't understand that he wasn't, or what? Was this relationship just bad? But
yeah, sometimes someone's just a jerk and they're selfish. It doesn't mean that you don't always speak the same love language.
Right. Well, I'm trying to apply this lesson to see what I can learn from it. But what I actually noticed with this situation was that, when my needs were not being met and when these love languages kind of dropped off the map with my ex-partner, I basically found someone else who was spending lots and lots of quality time with me, and I became very interested in them.
I think it's really fascinating how it works. I mean, I don't know. And in the long term, I guess, what I've been wondering kind of from the beginning, how much these could potentially change within relationships, or if this is kind of our love language, it's something that we have built up from experience. And I don't know. I mean,
well, I think the proof is in the pudding, right? You just said that you changed when your guy made those adjustments. When you started changing your behavior, you were then able to realize that he loved you more. So I do think that it changed your language a little bit.
Once you become aware of something, suddenly it opens up a whole new perspective and you can see things that you didn't see before. So maybe it's not like really a change in the way that you express or receive love. It's just a greater awareness that there are more than one way to express and receive love, and that your partners or your parents or your child's or your coworkers might be different than your own.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, I'm very curious to take the varying quizzes. I really wonder how different they are from the original one that I took.
Yeah, if you go to the website right now, there's like 4 different quizzes, right? There's one for singles, one for couples, there's one for child and parent, and then there's one for is there another one for workplace? I don't know, but there's like a couple different flavors. I remember in the past when I went to take this quiz, it was only for people in relationships or couples, but you can kind of customize it to anything you want. And I think that's a smart move because this really applies very broadly. It's not just for people who are in relationships. So let us know what you get when you take the quiz. You can write to us at proofoflovecast.com. You can contact us through our website or social media. Let us know what you think in the comments on the show. And if you have a question or a topic for a future show, you can always contact us. Like we said, our website is proofoflovecast.com. And do we want to give out an email address too, or is that the website just the best way?
I think the website is still the best way, but people can definitely follow us on all the social media accounts. So we've got a Twitter and Instagram and a Facebook. So that's Proof of Love Cast. It's the same name for everything. So people can find us there. And if you like this show, why don't you listen to us through your RSS feed? Click that little button or review us on iTunes or tell a friend, more importantly. It's an independent show and we'd love to have your support. So if you're liking what you're listening to, give us a like or retweet or share it out.
For everyone out there who has words of affirmation as their love language, we appreciate you listening to our show. We're so happy to have you here with us.
I was just going to say that. I love that you just said that.
We love you guys. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Show me your heart. I know that it's beating. Tell me that you love me too. So I know your heart is true. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. This episode of Proof of Love is brought to you by Vaultoro. Visit Vaultoro.com and start today. That is vault, like a gold vault, and oro, which is Spanish for gold. Vaultoro, ole! Do you like cryptocurrency, politics, economics, activism, or art? Then check out the Tatiana Show, where you can learn all about it in a fun and non-intimidating way, as if you're just hanging with friends. Go to thetatianashow.com and listen now. Thank you for listening to Proof of Love. Please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Proof of Lovecast. More episodes can be found at proofoflovecast.com. And make sure you leave a review on iTunes and tell your friends. Proof of Love has been brought to you by CryptoMediaHub.com, a boutique marketing and PR agency for Bitcoin and beyond.